Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of DiversifyHER podcast. I'm your host, Raven Heyward, and today I'm super excited to have Vada A. Stevens, also known as my cousin Manny, on the show today. His journey is rooted in public service, leadership, and creating meaningful change. As a graduate of Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, he earned his degrees in English with a concentration in professional writing and music with a concentration in performance. Today, he serves as Chief of Staff for Hamilton County Commissioner Alicia Reece, following experiences in corporate banking, voting rights advocacy, Congress, and was selected for a competitive internship position under the Biden-Harris administration at the White House. Now he's preparing for his next chapter at the University of Cincinnati College of Law this fall, and today I've really wanted to go beyond his resume and of course the amazing experiences that he's had that have shaped him, and really dig into what drives his passion for public service and the impact that he hopes to continue making. Thank you so much for joining today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Raven. It is so exciting to finally get the opportunity to be on your show, your podcast, and I am looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you. I'm really excited as well. I know it's been a long time coming, and I hope we make our family proud and just show them really what's in our DNA. So
That's
I
great.
really want to start by your story. And when I look at everything you've done, reading your resume, just reading your bio for the listeners to get to know you a bit more, from the advocacy in Capitol Hill to the White House and now serving as Chief of Staff, what initially sparked your interest in government and public service? And what were some of those defining moments that led you to where you are today?
Well, look, I often say that, we as people are often shaped by our experiences, our education, and our environment. And for me, everything that I do is rooted in family, and it's rooted in the belief that you must give back and be of service to others. For me, it started at Miami University, my undergrad. There was a program called the Government Relations Network that was very instrumental getting students into the rooms with decision makers. And that program would work with us, train us, and prepare us to meet with legislators in Columbus, in my home state of Ohio, but also be able to take trips to Washington, D.C. to advocate on behalf of students and on issues that impacted students and families in the university in this thing we call higher education. And I used the word advocacy earlier, but at the time I didn't really view it that way. I honestly didn't know what to call it. I just knew that there were a number of issues that impacted students who look like me, and important experiences that needed to be centered and communicated to decision makers who are creating laws that impact our daily lives. And so for me, I can recall while many of my friends were spending their summers and spring breaks and fall breaks on vacation and at the beach, I remember preparing materials and going over my pitch and doing research around all kinds of issues as it relates to state funding, as it relates to Pell Grant funding, as it relates to access to broadband Wi-Fi, our work-study program, and really showing those who had been elected on behalf of the people that their investment, their dollars, which really is the taxpayers' money, right? It was they were getting a return on their investment, so to speak, by students like myself and others who have these really amazing stories and carry these lived experiences. But what was interesting was I realized I had an opportunity that many did not, and that was to be in the room and to give our representatives a conscience around how their decisions impact our lives as students, and being able to take those experiences into committee hearings, be able to take those experiences and help develop proponent and opponent testimony on a range of issues, I said, hey, I really like this. I'm really interested in this. And this piques, at my heart of service. Born and raised, obviously, in the church. And my grandfather is a bishop. And my family's obviously been in ministry. And always being told that it is so critical that you serve and give back to the least of thee. And watching them do that, watching the partnership that we have with the Cincinnati City Gospel Mission, and helping people even in the smallest ways through, clothing and overseas mission work, and those who might be indigent, like all of those things, seeing it very early on, I recognized this world is so much bigger than myself. And so when I got to college and had the opportunity to now put it in action, those earlier seeds, those earlier principles that were instilled in me, it all started to make sense. Needless to say, Miami University is where Freedom Summer 1964 took place. And that's very important because that was one of the many catalysts that led to the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1964 and the Civil Rights Act of 1965. All of those landmark cases, as you know, there was a day and age where folks that look like us were not able to exercise our right to vote. And so for almost a little over a week on what was then the western side of campus, which was the Women's College at Miami University, there were civil rights advocates that did voter registration and training to prepare advocates to go out back to the South to bring in more people so that folks could exercise their civic duty. So I got involved in student government, and was able to do a lot of great work on amplifying that history and ensuring that other students knew all of the people and individuals who had fought for them, all of that history and the legacy that they stood on. And so for me, it's been about experience, it's been about family, it's been about service, and it has, by and large, been about ensuring that I am continuously finding ways to leave rooms different than I found them, and centering advocacy in big ways and in some small ways, but all the while, if I can just help one person, then I've done my job.
Right. I think that was so beautifully said, how you really broke down every single component and every piece in that answer. And I love how you always rooted it around faith and family and giving back. And I think those are all important aspects. I know servant leadership is a term that I hear a lot, and it's something that I plan to embody, because you have to serve when you lead, and when you lead, you serve. But it's also important that as you're walking into these different opportunities, you're also giving back, and you're leaving the door open and extending your arm to help those follow. And I also love how you even brought a little of history about Miami University. I didn't know that myself. I'm not sure if any of my listeners or viewers knew that as well. So I love how you educated us and us learning about that. And I think it's so important that we know our history and that we continue to learn and expand our minds. And even if it's not something that we're initially interested in, it's always good to just read up on it and to learn something new each day. And something that I really wanted to touch on is, while you're at Miami University, you majored in English and also music. So how are you able to kind of merge your passion and your service for civic engagement along with your music? And have there been any opportunities where you've kind of seen the two intertwine along your journey?
Absolutely. I am a singer and classically trained. I majored, as you indicated, in music voice performance at Miami University. But long before that, Raven, you know that it was a requirement, if you will, that all of the cousins came together for the holidays. And, put our best foot forward and let our gifts and our talents shine and sharpen one another and challenge one another
And
to
Manny
be
can
our
sing,
best.
y'all. He can sing when I tell y'all. His voice is so beautiful, so gifted. Sorry I interrupt you.
No, I appreciate that. And so, that being a constant in my life, having professional singers on both sides of my family, my grandfather was one of the lead singers for a group called The Deal, and he performed and toured with Ellie Reed and Babyface. And then, of course, the Stevens, that's just what we do. As it relates to producers, as it relates to singers, as it relates to engineers, as it relates to writers. So there was no avoiding music essentially being the soundtrack of my story and my life. And so to go to Miami University and have these interests in music and the background of that, but then find myself being pulled in the direction of serving my community and being able to stay civically engaged, and then trying to figure out a way to converge these two loves and these two interests was not easy. Honestly, at one point, as I found myself, wanting to help folks on the campus and off the campus, and stay civically engaged and participate in electoral politics and get involved with our government relations network and Office of Institutional Relations at our university, go to Columbus and go to DC, all the while I have this gift and I have this interest. And at one point I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do this singing anymore because I don't quite understand the overlap. I don't see the connection. And I thought about giving it up. Initially when I came in, I was like, oh, maybe I want to go to Broadway. Maybe I want to do, continue down theater and production and, become a professional singer myself. But all the while, I'm so glad I didn't give it up because, as said before, later on, I would go to work in government, and I can't tell you how important it is to have people in positions that care about the arts, that care about community, that care about retaining cultural vibrancy for communities. It's not only a revenue generator and a tourism driver, but it's also an escape and an outlet for so many. One of the biggest projects that I'm proud to have worked on as it relates to the commissioner's office is the state-of-the-art, world-class Cincinnati Black Music Walk of Fame. Cleveland has the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Tennessee has Tall Stacks. There's Prince Paisley Park, Motown in Detroit. But Cincinnati has the Cincinnati Black Music Walk of Fame, which is celebrating the untold stories and legacies of artists, African-American artists from across Southwest Ohio. And so being able to be in the room and converge this love for policy, this love for people, but also to center my training and my upbringing and the knowledge and education that I have in music. I am so glad I did not give it up. And it taught me a lesson that the gifts and the talents and the interests that God instills in you, life has a way of bringing things full circle. And you never know when you'll have to pull one of those tools out of the toolbox and be able to use. We're not a monolith. We're not one-dimensional people. We're meant to do it all and be great at it and not limit ourselves. And so it has been one of the most rewarding experiences. We just had our 2026 induction ceremony where we took in Heatwave, legendary band, and as a matter of fact, one of their lead singers and writers was Rod Temperton, who actually wrote Thriller for Michael Jackson. And that's like one of the best-selling albums of all time. Wow. And so a lot of rich history here, but to be able to share those stories, honor those artists, preserve their legacy while still working on policy. I've gotten the opportunity, the privilege to be able to experience the best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm. I think that is so cool and amazing in the way you said it right there, encompassing that, God, he really does have a way of bringing together all of your interests and just multifaceted ways of really showing you what your purpose is. And as long as you're, staying faithful and steadfast, that he really does have it all planned for us. And I'm sure with all of the work that you've done and even through your journey, I'm sure you faced adversity. And obviously, everything that God blesses us with, it's not always going to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And I really want to cover, how you've worked in these different parts of government. You've worked at the federal level, in the Senate and the House of Representatives, and your experience in the White House, and now you're working directly with local government in your county. So what do you think that a lot of people might misunderstand with how much local and state government affects their everyday lives? And where do you think that there's the greatest opportunity there for us to make an impact?
Well, I love this question because it provides an opportunity to clear up some of the mist and the confusion and some of the misnomers that may be out there as it relates to what's important, and that is what's happening in your local community. And it's often said that all politics are local because they truly are. Being in DC was a great experience for me. I got the opportunity to work with the Congressional Black Caucus. I got the opportunity at that time. There were 62 plus members of the CBC. These are some of the best and brightest minds from around the country that have been sent to represent the people in DC. I got to work with the chair emeritus at that time, but she is still serving, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty out of Ohio, 3rd Congressional District. I had the opportunity to work in the office of Senator Jeff Merkley and do a lot of great work as far as voting rights and looking at our affordable housing practices as a country and policies, and also helping to shape messaging so that people understood the resources that are out there and what they're entitled to. But also looking at education policy. And the Congresswoman, as a matter of fact, at that time, she was the chair of the subcommittee on DEI for the House Financial Services Committee. And so they were looking at, our banking practices, our housing practices, fair housing practices, folks' ability to get a loan in this country, to be able to have credit, and provide for their families and build generational wealth, and ensuring that that process is equitable and everybody can have a piece of the American dream. To be a part of that work has left a lifelong impact on me, to show me really what government looks like when it works well, when it works right. And that same tune has continued now that I'm back home away from DC on the local level. A lot of times I felt in DC there was a little bit of a dissonance, a disconnect, right? Because you may pass a bill, you may pass a piece of legislation, and at that time, so many things had happened. Roe v. Wade had happened. Congress had passed the largest bipartisan Chips and Science Act bill. One of the largest in 30 years gun reform measures have been passed during that time. And so these are big issues that impact everyday life. But all the while I'm asking, is anybody getting helped? Is anybody being impacted by these things? And it's hard to see it. Yes, you talk to constituents, and yes, people email the office, but to come back home and be able to work on the bread and butter issues and be where government meets their people has been quite a journey, and something that I don't take lightly. My boss currently, Commissioner Reece, often says, we're like UPS delivering packages to people's doorsteps, and that's really how it feels. And I don't get to just knock on the door, but I get to be able to report, or at least I should be, what did they say? And how did we help them? And, I said earlier, this is what it looks like when government works. When I came in from DC, the federal government had gifted and sent, by way of the Treasury, Hamilton County over $158 million in American Rescue Plan funds. And I've been able to see the Board of County Commissioners, which you all can think of it like an administrative wing of the state that's delegated with getting out state and federal funding to the community, to the streets. I got to see, once that money came, $100 million in rental assistance be dished out. I got to see, $6-7 million in property tax assistance. I got to see shelter diversion programming and investments in nonprofits such as Strategies to End Homeless, to curtail and reduce homeless rates. I got to see, $50-60 million historic investment in affordable housing to create more units of housing for people, and to be able to ensure our seniors have a place to go, and not only that they have a place to go, but they can keep the lights on through investments in utility assistance and relief. Even as it relates to persons with disabilities, this board has made significant investments in smart homes, state-of-the-art homes to make things more accessible, more amenable, more comfortable, and to ensure folks can have a sense of independency. That's what government looks like when it's done right, when it's effective, when you have the right person in office with the right heart and has the tools to succeed, to get the resources and the help out to the people. Local government is so important because you may never get to go on to meet the President of the United States, but I guarantee, because of proximity, you'll have the opportunity to talk to your council member down at City Hall. You'll have the opportunity to talk to your county commissioner, and in some cases, your state representative or your state senator. Those are the folks that are tasked with implementing what's happening at the federal level. And for me, it has been remarkable what we've been able to accomplish over the last 4 years or so. We've established our first Office of Youth, our first small business office to help small businesses, entrepreneurs, a 513 relief bus to get health and social services and economic services out to the community, on and on and on. I talked about the Black Music Walk of Fame because it's also a tourism project. It drives revenue. It helps us compete with our peer cities and make Cincinnati a destination worth coming to. I mean, we've got some exciting things happening in our region. We're getting ready to host Blink, which is one of the world's largest interactive outdoor lighting shows with artists in the digital space and interactive activations from all across the country will be coming here. We just came off the Jazz Festival, which is like the country's longest running African-American music festival in the country. And we just welcomed Mary J. Blige and a number of other artists. So I've been blessed to be a part of some amazing projects, and that didn't happen in DC. It happened right here at home. And the issues that you care about, right? Childcare, your trash, your water, your roads, all of that is at the local level of government. And the people that serve at the federal level, they're sent to represent you, and it starts here at home. So it's so important for people to make that connection. Folks complain about rent, and I agree, it is high. And we do have an affordability crisis in this country. My hope is that it starts to improve. Insurance, cost of gas, all of these issues are intertwined in politics and in government. And if you don't care, I guarantee that issue will start to make you care, because it'll become personal and apparent. And oftentimes, we don't start paying attention until that thing comes knocking at our front door.
Exactly. I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said the piece about proximity, but also how a lot of people don't start caring about issues until it starts knocking at their door, right? And so often, you feel like some people, maybe if they didn't vote in previous elections, then once the next time comes around, they may feel like, oh man, I waited too late. Like, I should have done more. I could have done more. And I think the answer is you still can right now. And I think, making sure that we're doing research is very important. I think a lot of people are now getting their information from social media. Social media has become such a huge part of our society, and even now with the creation of AI and how that is really taking off. And I feel that it's almost integrated in everyone's daily life. I feel like I don't know a lot of people who go more than a day without using AI, if I'm being honest. And so, something that's also really important that I would love for you to touch on is the importance of voting, right? I think every year or every election year, I'll say, that's when you see the publicity for it, and that's when you see the funding for it, and you see the commercials. But could you just touch on how important it is for you to also vote in your primary elections and keeping up with your local government? Because as you said, that y'all are kind of like the UPS system, right? And so I'd love for you to maybe touch on what we could do more of and some great resources that you use or some tips that would really encourage people to go out and vote and do their research.
So this year is a midterm election, and that's important because that is the election year where you have your governor's race, you have your Senate races, you have your state house and state Senate races, you have judicial races, county commissioner races, all of the races that coincide with your day-to-day life and have the power to impact you in a more immediate way. And as you mentioned, oftentimes it's during the presidential year that we see the lights, the camera, the action, the anticipation, and I would dare say greater investment in funding in civic groups and those who are doing grassroots organizing. But it is so needed and so critical to give that same level of investment and participation and engagement even now, because these issues that we're talking about, they really do impact not only just you, but your neighbors, and have the ability to really change the tide for generations to come. Right now, the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus Foundation released a report, and in that report, it detailed the 2022 midterms. And what you'll find is, and this is just Ohio, there were 600,000 or so eligible voters who did not vote. So these are people that are registered. These are people that have the ability to show up to the polls and cast their ballot, but they chose to stay at home. And those numbers were very glaring to me, in that most people know who do this type of work, when it comes to state races, the win is very marginal, usually 5 to 8 percentage points. So the question that we should be asking is, what would happen if those 600,000 or so voters who have the ability to participate but are not, let alone the people that need to get registered to vote, would start stepping up and not only vote but bring somebody to the polls with them? I bet you we would see our experiences and the issues that we care about centered a lot more, and we would start to see the tide change, and some of the struggles that we have, it's my hope they would be no more, because you'd have a greater representation of the electorate participating. Now, I know what you're wondering. Well, what caused or what leads to that amount of people sitting out and not voting, right? Well, some of it is not just a people issue, but it's also those that are organizing, those that are engaging communities, those who are in elected office. You know, the question also becomes, how do we hold them accountable? How do we make sure that everybody plays the role that they're supposed to be playing? Well, it looks like not waiting till the last 6 weeks to engage the community. I call it the 30-day program, where here comes all of the advertisement and door knocking and canvassing and infusion of money, so to speak, to help get out the vote and educate communities. But we're waiting until the last minute, and we're waiting till now. We need a year-round operation and an education system in place that starts engaging and getting folks conscious of these issues early on. We also have to ensure that those who are in elected office are delivering. People want folks that are going to deliver, are going to elicit results. People have to see a direct correlation between their vote at the ballot box and what's happening at City Hall, what's happening at the county, what's happening at the State House, to bring them out to vote, right? I also think the types of investments that we have, it's important that you have people from the community having a role and being able to be a leader in engaging community. What good is it to have somebody that's not from here, that doesn't know the ground game, that doesn't know the people, doesn't know the issues, trying to represent folks who live this every day, and yet they're often in the back room or in the back door as if they're not important and they're not a factor that plays and holds significant weight. And so if there was ever a time to vote, that time is now. People not only lived for the right to vote, but they died for that right to vote. And having more representation and our interests reflected in these processes can only help provide more perspective and more input to ensure that our cities, our state, and our country are headed in the right direction, because we are creating and curating and structuring a system that is reflective of the people that it is supposed to serve. And so you asked me about resources and things that I use. Well, one, it's very important to know who your state representative is, who your state legislator is, who your county commissioners are, who your city council members are. It's very important to make sure that you are reading up and utilizing technology, and yes, utilizing AI and all of the tools that are at our fingertips, but also making sure that you verify. It's like when you set up an account through the bank. Nowadays, they have a 3-step authenticator, and there's a system in place to make sure that you are who you say you are and that this transaction is legit. Well, it's the same way as it relates to the information that we take in. The same principles remain true. And so I watch the news, I listen to the radio, I listen to podcasts like Raven's podcast, DiversifyHER. Shout out for all of the amazing things you're doing.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And that's what keeps me involved and sensitive to the needs of my community and the issues that we're facing.
Mm-hmm. I think you dropped a lot of golden nuggets there, and everything that you said is super important. And I even love the example that you used with like the 3-step authenticator and the verification, because trust me, sometimes that can be very annoying, but it's needed, right?
Right.
So sometimes I think, that's part of the things, even if you may not want to, I think it's so important that you do. And not only, again, like you said, relying on social media, but making sure that you're verifying where you're getting your answers from, because misinformation can spread very quickly, and that is definitely something that we need to veer away from. And so as we come to the end of this episode, I have a signature question that I love to ask, which is, what's one piece of advice you would give Gen Z to go out and diversify themselves? But also with that answer, maybe if you have some tips and tricks as to potentially what you're doing to now prepare yourself as you enter law school this fall.
So, I always tell young professionals and those who are interested in civics, or those who care about their community, period, right? You may not go on to be an elected official. You may not go on to be the candidate, but we need somebody to be able to run the West Wing. We need somebody who is operating in leadership in the small business space, in the tech space, in the medical profession, in the legal profession. There's room for all of us. And we all have a role to play. There are so many boards and commissions and committees that need your voice. There are so many study and focus groups that need your voice. There are so many projects and campaigns and coordinated canvassing and volunteers that are needed, who are looking for people that are willing, ready, and able to make a difference. And if there was anything that I were to stress or advise, it would be to get all of the experiences that you can that are going to further shape and develop and provide perspective. And I'm preaching to myself, right? When I was in college, I thought I was going to go straight to law school. That was the plan. Very type A, and oftentimes I have a plan, but that plan tends to be different from God's plan, because ultimately He has the final say, and your steps truly are ordered, and you're going to get to that sure foundation. But the way in which you thought, right, and the way in which that road looks and the path you're going to take might be a little different from necessarily what you may have bargained for. And so it was the best decision to take time off from school. It was the best decision to be able to go to Washington and work on the Hill and be able to understand how a bill becomes a law. And for all of your listeners, I'm going to tell you right now, is nothing like I'm just a bill, only a bill sitting here on Capitol Hill, School of Rock. There's a lot they left out, but we'll talk about that another time. And then to come back and get county-wide experience in a county that is home to more than 830,000 people, and work on the everyday issues, quality of life issues for working people, working families, that has really prepared me, number one, to be sure that this next step of pursuing my Juris Doctorate and getting a legal education is what I really want to do. It has provided me the opportunity to reset and give myself grace and recharge. It's provided me the opportunity to be able to save and make a little money and be able to retain that for future use. All of those things I really wasn't thinking about initially, because coming straight out of college, I just wanted to save the world. But when you understand how the world really works, and that there'll be good days and bad days, but you have to get up and pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and get back to it, get back at it, that is something that only experience can teach you. And for me, I'm already trying to get my schedule together. I'm already reading and briefing cases. Orientation is coming up soon. And then classes will be, right after that. And although the reading is very dense, although it's very complex, and in some cases seems archaic in nature, I find myself intellectually stimulated by it. So I'm like, okay, this is good. I made the right decision. This is a good start. I don't know if I could say the same about math and science and biology and things of that nature. God bless those that do that. But I would say make sure that you continue to stay grounded in community, continue to utilize and leverage your network, and follow up with all of the folks that have been able to help and have played a role in your life along the way. Give yourself grace. Take some time. Take a break. You've earned it. And get organized. You got to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And I am looking forward to this next chapter and this next journey, because I know it's going to make me a better policy analyst. It's going to make me a better public servant. It's going to make me a better team player and make me someone who is able to utilize all these experiences to hopefully have an even greater impact and leave a great impression on someone's life.
Mm-hmm. Well, I am wishing you the best of luck, and I cannot wait to hear how your first year or even first semester goes this fall. You have been doing such amazing things, and me keeping up with you on social media and LinkedIn, I'm just always amazed by everything you're involved in and everything that you do. So know that I am so proud of you, and I cannot wait to see what else God has in store for you. I really appreciate you coming on the show today. I'm so happy we could finally make it happen. I'm excited for everyone else to listen to it. I'll be sure to include your information below if anyone would like to reach out to you directly to continue on with these conversations. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode, and I'll catch you next time on Diversify Her.